It's been a few months since I made a video about AI, and I believe many of my opinions have held up quite well. I will admit that some of my explanations of the technology was a bit misguided, but that was not really my concern. I want to make this video about what I see to be both a positive and a negative aspect of AI image generation. I will again note that I don't like calling it AI, but that is the colloquial term for this technology, and so I will continue to use it. First, I want to address the area that the majority of artists have focused on, the area of copyright. Again, I still think these arguments are bad. I don't mean that I support AI using artists' images as training data. I mean that arguing for copyright infringement will not be a successful legal case. Japan has already decided in favor of the AI platforms, by the way. At the end of the day, copyright is a strange legal and cultural construct. Artists and humans all over the world copy each other all the time. Read René Girard, it's all in there. Or watch the Everything is a Remake by Kirby Ferguson, linked below. We copy left and right, but in order for the artists to make their way in the market, we came up with this idea of copyright. It serves some good and some bad, and has been used and abused. My point is that as it stands, copyright laws are not engineered in a manner to protect human artists from AI data mining. I hope you can understand why, though. Think of it this way. At some point in time, way back before history was recorded, someone figured out how to make the hand axe. This was then copied over and over for an estimated 250,000 years. That one person impacted the entire world. We do not know who that was, but we are impacted by their legacy even today. Whoever that person was, and if humans have immortal souls, I hope they're proud of the impact they had on all human history. Their idea was copied and copied over and over, but their individuality and name was lost to history. Copyright laws try to remedy the problem of the lost identity, but this also limits the way an idea can spread through culture. Imagine you're Bill Watterson, and you make a cute cartoon kid named Calvin. I think Bill would be very happy that a young boy got obsessed with drawing this kid and his tiger over and over, copying his work. It impacted me, and how I think and how I see the world. Bill would probably be happy knowing that I learned to draw by tracing Calvin and Hobbes. I doubt he would file a lawsuit against me, even though I was copying him. But Bill would probably be concerned if I started making Calvin for my own gain and without citing my sources. This is why copyright exists, and some economic reasons as well. Hopefully, for as long as Calvin and Hobbes is around, humanity will know the name Bill Watterson and will not forget who was responsible for such a gem and a masterpiece as the sum total of all those comics. The AI is doing something very similar to what I do when I draw my cartoon characters now. I think about how Watterson drew Calvin, and I start to generalize his style for my own means. It is not a copy of Calvin, but it is largely influenced by Watterson's work. This is what AI is mainly capable of. Now, there are instances where the AI does generate images that are akin to copies, and the companies know this and are working to mitigate this form of image generation. But in general, it functions by understanding the general makeup of an image or style, not the actual details. My worry with trying to get a wrangle on AI via copyright arguments is that we will actually end up choking human creativity as well. If the AI cannot use Bill Watterson as a model or as training data, how does that impact me? Especially if we don't think there is much of a difference between the intelligence a neural network is able to emulate and the intelligence that my brain's neural network manifests. If looking at and analyzing an artwork in order to understand its basic structure is deemed copying, then we better throw out tracing paper, fan art, satire, parody, and ignore the reality of human nature and our inborn mimetic necessities. I certainly do not have answers how or if we can stop AI image generators from decimating our creative cultures. But I do not think that copying is the biggest threat. As I mentioned before, the real fear I have is the flood. By that I mean the sheer volume of imagery that AI platforms can produce is staggering. The flood of imagery is much worse than the fact that an artist like Bill Watterson is sort of being copied, but technically isn't. But when something is copied infinitely, we lose all sense of the origin point and what made it so worthy of copying. Artists have already found that when they Google their work, the entire first page of search results is all AI-generated work and not their own. This is what I mean by the flood. Finding a needle in a haystack is already hard enough, but try finding a singular needle in a room full of needles. Why even try? Is there an upside to the flood of AI imagery? Well, as with all automated technologies, there is a general rise in the quality of consumer goods. What do I mean? Take IKEA. IKEA has made reasonably good furniture available to billions of people. Before modern manufacturing, furniture was higher quality but harder to come by. IKEA furniture is not long-lasting, but it is cheap, and the overall increase in quality is good enough for a huge majority of people. But this also has a downside. The high end gets smaller. Whereas in the past a family might buy a set of fine china that lasts for generations, now hardly anyone needs fine china. We settle for the ubiquitous Crate & Barrel or Target brand plates. This means that high-end goods decline. More and more artisans find that their goods cannot compete when reasonably priced but inferior products are so widely accessible. These artisans usually have to find another job. The same is already happening with AI. An AI voiceover is not as good as a human voiceover, but for most YouTube content, it probably works. I already have started using AI to make subtitles for my videos. This rising tide will raise the quality of a ton of imagery. For example, the low end of logos will get a lot better. AI will be able to make generic tea boxes look so much better. But it will also mean that more and more folks will opt for the vastly cheaper AI version that is slightly inferior than the expensive made by human alternative. Meaning, eventually, our high end of the spectrum will crumble until it can only support a very small few, just like the master crafts throughout Japan. This is also assuming that AI does not get as good or better than human image makers, something I'm not willing to admit just yet. Look at the hands after all. They've gotten way, way better, way faster than any of my human students could. I fear the effect of the imagery flood will have even broader implications beyond losing the high end of artistic imagery. One of the arguments that many of my academic colleagues put forward is that of the John Henry, or the calculator argument, that was used when I was a kid. If you don't learn your times tables and addition and subtraction, then when you need it, and you don't have a calculator in your pocket, you'll be in trouble. This argument is problematic on two levels. First, it implies that arithmetic illiteracy will cause shame, which I don't think it does anymore. Second, we now have calculators in our pockets at all times, and even the cash registers tell the cashiers the best way to make exact change faster than the speediest arithmetic grocer from times bygone. John Henry may have beaten the machine once, but he died, and then the machine replaced him. Another way to think about it is to look at even more ancient human skills, like making a fire. Sitting at an academic conference, I was quite certain that I was one of the few out of 75 people in that room that knew how to make a fire without a lighter. Humans have largely forgotten that skill, that certainly someone once said, "Sure, you have a lighter, but you better learn how to make a fire without it because you won't always have a lighter around." Yet, time has shown that the vast majority of folks in the developed world do not remember how to make a fire, or never even learned. Any argument that you should learn how to draw or learn how to write because you won't always be able to rely on AI is a conditional argument. The conditions of the future will probably prove it wrong. To me, the more problematic aspect of this loss of human skills is what the actual skills we risk losing are. As in, I don't think it's that bad that the majority of my colleagues can't make a fire without a lighter. They're not lesser humans for that, though they may be lesser survivalists. But what skills do we risk forgetting? Let's look at just the area of image generation. Image making consists of basic aspects of the creative process: exploration, observation, refinement, critiquing, responding to criticism. These are all key skills of what makes humans more than just consumers. If we automate our creativity, do we risk forgetting how to be creative? This is a hard question that ultimately only time will be able to answer. But has popular music, a world where automation has been largely embraced up until AI music generators, become more or less creative in your opinion? Do musicians have more fluency in many forms of musicality, or have they become more limited? Do pop songs sound more and more similar, or are they becoming more and more distinct? Are we making new genres of music, or are we condensing more and more music into large genre blocks? I think it's clear that we are losing our creativity in the realm of popular music. I think AI will exacerbate that in any area where it gains wide-scale usage. I don't know how we can stop it, but I do think that we can encourage our younger generations to learn to appreciate as much art in as diverse a manner as possible. Otherwise, I think the good stuff will be ignored and even lost in a sea of AI-generated mediocrity. I don't think AI will be our demise. I think it will be our pacifier. I think it will make us less interested in trying to get good at creative skill and gaining all the benefit of the immense amount of struggle and failure after failure that it requires. I think we will start to not appreciate art simply because it's easy to make something reasonably attractive with AI. Just like fire. I don't marvel at my barbecue or stovetop burner. I don't confuse fire with a god. Maybe it's good that I don't, but it certainly is not as important as it once was to my ancestors. So who knows? Maybe some good will come out of a world where art is less important. But personally, I doubt it.